students, welcome to my channel Learning History Made Easy. So I hope my videos are helping you in your preparation for your final examination. So today's video will be a continuation of the 5-mark question from the model paper 2022. So before going into the video, if anyone is seeing the channel for the first time or if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share it with your friends. And also click the bell button to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. So without wasting time, let us get into the video. So the next 5-mark question is illustrate the Hoysala contribution to religion and literature. So here the question is only about religion and literature. So let us see what are points we have to write for this answer. Hoysalas have given rich contribution to the field of religion, literature, art and architecture. A unique style of architecture and sculpture was developed during this period. This age is called as the golden age of temple architecture in history. So the Hoysala period is called as the golden age of temple architecture in Indian history. So these points you can write as an introduction, that they have given a rich contribution in the field of religion, literature, art and architecture. Then they developed their own unique style of architecture and sculpture, and the age is called as golden age of temple architecture in Indian history. Now we'll move on to the first main subheading after the introduction, that is religion. They patronized Shaivism, Vaishnavism and Jainism, and many Hoysala kings followed Jainism. Bittideva, that is Vishnuvardhana, was a Jain. He was influenced by Sri Ramanujacharya and then later he got converted into Sri Vaishnavism. So the kings patronized Shaivism, Vaishnavism and Jainism, and many kings were followers of Jainism. And the queen of Vishnuvardhana, that is Queen Shantala Devi, and many of her generals were Jains. Even though Vishnuvardhana got converted into Sri Vaishnavism, his queen and many of his generals were still Jains. Then about literature, Kannada and Sanskrit literature developed during this time. Some of the important literary works were Mallinatha Purana by Nagachandra, Dharmamrita by Nayasena, Pampashataka by Harihara, etc. So you can write some books names and authors names. So both Kannada and Sanskrit literature developed during this time, and some literary works names you can write. Then that is Kannada works name which we studied now. Now some of the Sanskrit works were Ushaharana by Trivikrama Pandita, Madhava Vijaya and Manimanjari by Narayana Pandita. So these were the Sanskrit literary works. So these were the contribution of Hoysalas to religion and literature. So now let us move on to the 36th question. Give an account of the administrative system of Shivaji. So regarding administrative system of Shivaji, first main is about the central government. Shivaji organized his administration on efficient lines. He was the sole head of the government and all authorities were concentrated in him. So king was the sole head of the government and all authorities were concentrated in him. He had a council of 8 ministers known as Ashtapradhanas. Now the 8 ministers' names are there. 8 of them you need not write, at least 4 or 5 you can write. So I will just tell which are the 8 ministers. Peshwa, the Prime Minister, and his duty was to look after the general welfare and interest of the state. Amatya, Finance Minister. Mantri, Chronicler, who kept the diary of King's daily activities. Sumant was in charge of foreign affairs. Sachiva, who looked after royal correspondence. Pandit Rao, Ardhanadyaksha, in charge of religious matters and donations. Senapati, or Sari Navbat, Commander-in-Chief of Army, and Nyayadish, that is Chief Justice, he was responsible for civil and military. So these are the 8 names of 8 ministers, Ashtapradhanas. Since it is a 5-mark question, you can just write 4 or 5 names and then continue with the answer. There were 18 departments in the government which were under the various ministers, and all of them worked under the supervision and guidance of the king. Now after central government, next subheading is provincial government. Shivaji divided his kingdom into 4 provinces and they were called as Swarajya. A viceroy called as Sardeshmukh was appointed for each province. Now Swarajya was subdivided into a number of prants, that is group of districts. The districts were called as Desh and the head of the Desh was Deshmukh or Deshpande. The districts were again subdivided into Parganas. So Shivaji's kingdom was divided into 4 provinces. They were called as Swarajya. Then Swarajya was subdivided into Prants. Then the districts were called as Desh. And then the districts were again subdivided into Parganas. This was for the provincial government. They were looked after by an official or an officer called as Desai. Village assembly was the smallest unit of administration. And Shivaji, regarding his administration, he abolished granting of jagir to the officers and salaries started to be paid in cash. Before the officers were granted jagirs, but now he started paying the officers in cash. Now a revenue system. Shivaji classified land according to the fertility and yield. The land revenue was fixed at 30% of the produce and later it increased to 40%. The revenue had to be paid either in cash or kind. And whenever there was any natural calamities, the land revenue was exempted. 2 other kind of taxes or military contributions were collected by Shivaji, that is Chaud and Sardeshmukhi. Those were the 2 other kind of taxes collected by Shivaji. Now moving towards the military system. Shivaji's kingdom was basically a military state. King was the head of the military and under him there was Senapati. The military of Shivaji consisted of infantry, cavalry, artillery, camels and elephants. Soldiers were not permitted to take women to the battlefield and they were not to ill-treat women, merchant, Brahmins, cows and agriculturists. There were different grades of military officers like Nayaks, Havildars, etc. And Shivaji also maintained a navy, that is a navy of about 200 ships. Now judicial system, king was the highest court of appeal. Civil cases were decided by village panchayat and criminal cases by district officers and governors. The judgment of the village courts had royal recognition and Nyayadisha, he was responsible for the civil and military justice. So these were the points regarding Shivaji's administration. So central government, provincial government, revenue system, military system and judicial system. From all these points you will have to write, then it will be perfect answer for 5 marks. Now let us move on to the next question, that is 37th question. Discuss the socio-religious reforms of Basaveshwara. Now Basaveshwara socio-religious reforms. Basaveshwara's philosophy was Shakti Vishishtadvaita philosophy. He propounded this philosophy and gave prominence to the worship of Linga. He gave opportunity for all to wear Ishtalinga irrespective of caste and gender. All those who were those who wore Linga came to be called as Lingayata. And moksha is to attain oneness with Linga. The merger of Shiva, that is Purusha, and Shakti, Prakriti, forms the basis of Basaveshwara's philosophy. This is called as Shakti Vishishtadvaita philosophy. So, before you start the answer, you can also just give an introduction about Basaveshwara, his birthplace, and then his philosophy is called as Shakti Vishishtadvaita philosophy. Like that you can start the answer. Now Ashtavarna principle has to be followed by Lingayata, which were taught at the time of Diksha. And what are the Ashtavarna principles? That is obedience to Guru, worship of Linga, reverence to Jangama, smearing ash on forehead, wearing Rudraksha, sipping Padotaka, partaking in food offered to God and uttering Namah Shivaya, that is Panchakshara mantra. So these were the main principles And now he propounded the path of devotion for salvation. He criticized caste system. Basaveshwara always criticized caste system. And he condemned, that is, he was against idol worship, holy bath, and the worship of stones and trees. And Basaveshwara was famous for his vachanas. Through his vachanas, he brought into open the vain display of devotion by the people. That is, he told that these were unnecessary display of devotion by the people. He also said that work is another form of devotion, that is, kaya kave kailasa, work is worship. That was said by Basaveshwara. He gave importance to inner purity than outer purity. Anubhava Mantapa, he established Anubhava Mantapa at Kalyana to spread his philosophy, and this is also called as Vachana Mantapa. Religious discourses or discussions were held and social and religious problems were discussed in Anubhava Mantapa. Allama Prabhu presided over these religious discourses. Now regarding his vachanas, they are a very unique form of Kannada literature and have enriched it. They created awareness among the people and they laid the foundation for social reforms. His pen name was Kudala Sangama Deva. So these are the points regarding the social religious reforms of Basaveshwara. So about his life, only just an introduction you have to write, because the question is not about the life of Basaveshwara, it is about the social religious reforms of Basaveshwara. Okay. So now let us move on to the 38th question. What were the causes and results of Battle of Plassey? So this question is asked in two parts, that is, one is causes and one is results. So let us see the answer. So first let us see the causes. First cause is political cause. Sirajud-Dowla had many rivals or enemies. Okay, Shaukat Jung, Ghazi Begum, etc. And these enemies were supported by the British. That was the first political cause for Battle of Plassey. Second cause, misuse of dastaks. Now what are dastaks? Mughal emperor had given permission to the British to trade in Bengal without tax. Dastaks were issued by the government of Bengal, which exempted the customs duty on trade. So British had a special permission from the Mughal emperor to trade without tax in Bengal, and for this dastaks were issued by the government of Bengal. The servants of East India Company misused them for their private trade. So these dastaks were given only for the British to trade in Bengal, but the East India Company servants started using it for their own private trade. They also sold them to local merchants for profit, and this resulted in loss of income to the state. So this misuse of dastaks became the second cause for the Battle of Plassey. Now the third cause, shelter to the French. British and French were rivals, they were enemies. English captured Chandranagar, which was a French trading center in 1756. And Siraj-ud-Dowla gave shelter to the Frenchmen, and this angered the British. When Siraj-ud-Dowla gave shelter to the French and British were enemies, so naturally this angered the British. Fourth cause for the Battle of Plassey, capture of Calcutta Fort. British feared the French and they strengthened their fort at Calcutta without the permission of the Nawab. So British strengthened the Calcutta fort without the permission of the Nawab. Nawab ordered them to demolish it, ordered the British to demolish it, but British did not do so. And Siraj-ud-Dowla captured Calcutta fort in June 1756. Robert Clive, that is British, again recaptured it. This increased the enmity between the two. So that was the fourth cause for the Battle of Plassey. Fifth cause, shelter to Diwan Rajavallabha. Diwan Rajavallabha had not settled the accounts of his office. So when he was forced by the Nawab, he went to British and he took shelter. So when Nawab forced Diwan Rajavallabha to settle his account, Diwan Rajavallabha went to the British and took shelter because he already knew that British and Siraj-ud-Dowla were having enmities. This angered the Nawab. So that became another reason. And the last reason, or we can say the immediate cause, is the Black Hole tragedy. During an attack on Calcutta, Siraj-ud-Dowla is said to have captured 146 Britishers and they were taken as prisoners. So Siraj-ud-Dowla captured 146 Britishers and they were taken as prisoners. They were lodged in a room of 15 into 18 feet, a very small room they were kept, these 146 people. 123 of them died of suffocation and only 23 survived. This incident is called as Black Hole tragedy. And this became an important reason for the Battle of Plassey. Now, peace was concluded later between British and Siraj-ud-Dowla. They signed the Treaty of Aligarh. Robert Clive, he planned a conspiracy with the commander of Bengal, Mir Jafar, against Siraj-ud-Dowla. That is, Robert Clive and Mir Jafar together planned a conspiracy against Siraj-ud-Dowla. British attacked Siraj-ud-Dowla on the pretext of not implementing the terms of Aligarh Treaty. And the battle was fought at Plassey in June 1757. So that is how the battle was fought in June 1757. Siraj-ud-Dowla was defeated and he fled, and during the escape he was killed by Mir Jafar's son. Mir Jafar was made the Nawab of Bengal and British gave him 24 parganas. And this battle of Plassey, it led to the foundation of British Empire in India. So these are the causes and results of Battle of Plassey. So I hope you have understood all these points very clearly. There are a few more 5-mark questions. I think 2 more 5-mark questions are there that I will be uploading in the next video. So before I upload that videos, please be thorough with the all questions which I have given till now. And also don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Your likes and shares will be of a great encouragement for me to make more and more videos. So I hope to see you all soon in the coming video. Thank you for watching.